Part 1. Plans. It's a bad plan that can't be changed. Publilius Syrus. To be happy at home is the ultimate result of all ambition. Samuel Johnson. Chapter 1. Her dreams and goals were simple and few. As a former Army brat, Morgan Albright spent her childhood moving across countries and continents. Her roots, directed by her father's work, grew short and shallow to allow for quick transplanting. From base to base, from house to house, state to state, country to country, for her first 14 years, before her parents divorced. She'd never had a choice. For the 3 years following the divorce, her mother had pulled her from place to place. A small town here, a big city there, looking for... Morgan had never been sure. At 17, closing in on 18, she'd dug those roots up herself to plant at college. And there she'd explored those goals and dreams and choices. She studied hard, focused in on a double major. Business and hospitality, choices that led directly to her dream. Planting herself. Her own home, her own business, her own. She studied maps, neighborhoods, climate, while narrowing her choices on just where to plant those roots once she'd earned those degrees. She wanted a neighborhood, maybe old and established, close to shops, restaurants, bars, people. And one day she'd not only own her own home, but her own bar. Simple goals. With those degrees hot in her hand, she settled on a neighborhood outside of Baltimore, Maryland. Old houses with yards and as yet to be gentrified, so affordable. She'd worked her way through college waiting tables, then tending bar when she'd hit 21. And she'd saved. Her father, the colonel, didn't make her graduation. And though she'd graduated with honors, he sent no acknowledgement of her accomplishments. It hadn't surprised her, as she knew she'd simply ceased to exist for him, even before his signature on the divorce papers dried. Her mother and her maternal grandparents attended. She hadn't known it would be the last time she'd see her grandfather. A robust 70, an active man, a healthy man, he died the winter after her graduation. He'd slipped off a ladder. One slip. Here, then gone. Even in her grief, it was a lesson Morgan took to heart. He left her $20,000 and memories as precious of hiking the Green Mountains of Vermont on summer visits. With the money, Morgan moved out of her tiny apartment and into a small house. Her house. One that needed work, but had a yard that needed work. The 3 small bedrooms, 2 tiny baths meant she could take in a housemate to offset the mortgage, help pay for that work. And she worked 2 jobs. She tended bar 5 or 6 nights a week at a neighborhood bar, a happy place called The Next Round. Considering home ownership, she took a second job as office manager at a family-owned construction firm. She met her housemate at the local garden center as she puzzled over foundation plants. Nina Ramos worked in the greenhouses and knew her stuff. Handy with a yard that needed help, Nina turned puzzlement into joy, and in that first blooming spring in a house of her own, Nina moved in. They enjoyed each other's company and knew when to give the other quiet and space. At 25, Morgan had achieved her first dream, and by her calculations would reach goal number 2 before her 30th birthday. Her one splurge sat in her narrow driveway. The Prius would take her a few years to pay off, but it would get her to work and back dependably and economically. In good weather, she rode her bike to her day job, but when she needed a car, she had one. Nina called the car Morgan's sub-goal. The little house on Newbury Street boasted a pretty yard, fresh white paint, and a new front door she'd painted a soft, happy blue. Her boss at Greenwald's Builders helped her refinish the old hardwood floors, sold her paint at cost, and guided her along the path of repairs and maintenance.